more than one way, but in particular, thank you to Matthew. It's been at least a decade since one of your members has given me a speeding ticket, so that either means I'm being well behaved or I've been too quick to catch. So, but I want to thank you for keeping my city safe, keeping my kids safe here in the nation's capital, and thank all of you for doing exactly the same nationwide. And I know that my friend Frank, our Shadow Associate Minister of Justice, Frank Caputo, who is a former prosecutor that helped put the bad guys behind bars, appreciates your work as well. And thank you, Tom, for leading your association with so much dignity, competence, and common sense. We're hoping to make it common around here. But most of all, thanks to all of you for doing the absolutely impossible. You deal with the absolute worst customers. They hurl abuse, insults, and other trouble your way. They want to put you all on footage. They don't want you to have a camera, but they want all of your conduct to be on camera so that they can slice and dice it, present it in the worst possible way. And then if you go through all of that danger, both political and physical, and get them behind bars, they're back out on the streets before you're done the paperwork of the arrest. I hear there's even an expression called FIDO. Am I allowed to say? It's an acronym, right? It's forget it, drive on, right? There's no other word there, is there? Try it again. All right. Well, I said WTF in the House of Commons, and somebody thought that I was being rude. I was just saying, where's the funds? These acronyms are actually very valuable. But I can understand why you might make the rational calculation to drive on when you look at an event in progress, because even if you interrupt it and you take yourself out of action for 2 hours to bring someone into custody, they will probably be back out on the street doing wrong faster than you're back out on the street doing right. And obviously that doesn't make sense. Now, let's be clear, that did not just happen. This was not a court ruling that brought us the catch and release bail system, although there have been many court rulings to legitimately complain about. This was the direct result of Justin Trudeau's catch and release bail law, C-75, that he has not fully reversed. And as a result, the same 40 offenders had to be arrested 6,000 times in 1 year in Vancouver, 150 arrests per year. The same offenders that you see in the morning, you then see again in the afternoon, because they are automatically released on early bail. Car thieves are released under C-83. As a result, they can go out and steal another car, creating a brand new industry and resulting in one car stolen every 40 minutes in the city, in the Greater Toronto area. Car thefts up more than 100% in the GTA as a result of C-83 and our terrible port system, which inspects only one shipping container for every 100 that go onto a ship. 5 CBSA officers to handle 500,000 containers. Obviously, they don't have a chance against crime. Meanwhile, the government is planning to waste $160 million more on outside consultants for the public safety and CBSA departments, and between $2 and $7 billion trying to take away lawfully acquired firearms from licensed, law-abiding, trained, and tested firearms owners. This madness has led to an explosion in crime on our streets. Crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder in almost every community in this country. And nowhere is that worse than in the addictions that have now run rampant across the country. Since Justin Trudeau became Prime Minister, the number of annual drug deaths has more than tripled. In Vancouver, where his policies, in British Columbia, where his policies have been most enthusiastically embraced, that is decriminalization, tax-subsidized narcotics, and no enforcement whatsoever, there has been a 380% increase in overdose deaths. 6 British Columbians die every single day of an overdose. 6 every day. And that number is rising quickly. Since the decriminalization of hard drugs in public places took effect at the end of January 2023, there have been 2,500 deaths, a record-smashing annual number, a 380% increase since Mr. Trudeau became Prime Minister. They were always, remember that when we brought in the policies, common sense against drugs and crime, they always said, well, these might make for good bumper stickers, they might win applause at a rally, but they don't work. All the brainy people sitting at desks, writing reports, producing spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations, all those brainy people know that what you really need to do is release the violent criminals again and again and again, to decriminalize the drugs, and in fact go further, hand out the drugs with using taxpayers' money, and the results would be safety and utopia. Well, exactly the opposite have happened. We've had danger and dystopia, and today we see it ongoing. You know, Premier Eby in BC, NDP Premier, panicking because he's plummeting in the polls. His policies are so unpopular. But he's plummeting in the polls as people realize that their streets are turning into drug dens and crime zones. And so he's completely swallowed himself whole and said he wants to recriminalize the drugs that he and Trudeau just teamed up to decriminalize barely a year ago. And guess what happened? Trudeau won't grant his request. So everyone in BC thinks that the drugs are now recriminalized because Eby held a press conference. But he needs federal approval to reinstate the criminal code that Trudeau exempted the province from over a year ago. So to this day, to this moment, you can smoke crack, meth, use illicit fentanyl, heroin in a public park, on a transit station, in a transit station, train, or bus. You can, in a hospital, they're now using crack, heroin, and holding weapons. The nurses are afraid to go to work. At this very moment, you can do that. In fact, one nurse told her union that she had to skip out on breastfeeding her baby because she was concerned that the meth smoke she breathed in at the hospital might have contaminated her milk. That is the insanity we're dealing with. Now, one would have thought that on a Friday afternoon, if the Premier of the NDP government in BC had said, Justin, we've really screwed up. This decriminalization experiment has been a nightmare. We have to reverse it. I would have thought he would have coordinated that and Ottawa would have had the deal done by midnight, so at least they wouldn't have to live more than one humiliating news cycle over their flip-flop. But what has happened, we're now almost 4 days later, and today the Minister of Drug Addiction said she's thinking about it. And it could be a while they ponder. Every single day they allow this to go on. 6 people die of overdoses and countless other die of the crime that results. My friend, this is insanity. The definition of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. And when I'm Prime Minister, the insanity will end. We will bring in a common sense law and order and anti-drug policy to bring home safe streets once again. Thank you. So let me tell you about my common sense plan. We will recriminalize all hard drugs in all places, not just in public places. We will stop giving out taxpayer-funded opioids, which have been proven to end up in the hands of kids and others who are new entrants to the drug scene. And instead, we will put that money into treatment and recovery services so that we can get detox, rehabilitation, fitness, yoga, sweat lodges for First Nations, job planning, transitional housing right next to treatment facilities so that recovering addicts who have graduated from the program can move next door, seek a job, come back for a counseling session, a workout, or maybe even to mentor an incoming addict on how they can get through the difficult progress of becoming drug-free. And our message is a hopeful message. It's to anyone out there who's suffering from addiction. There is hope. There will be support. You will have a chance to turn your life around and start a better future. That is how we're going to bring them home drug-free and end the tent city encampments and the chaos in our streets. We're going to repeal the catch and release bail system and institute a rule that anyone who has a long rap sheet of violent offenses or high-value theft will automatically be ineligible for bail. It will be jail and not bail for anyone newly arrested with a long rap sheet. We will extend that principle to house arrest. Thank you. We will extend that principle to house arrest and to parole. We need a total remake. In fact, we're going to get rid of house arrest altogether for any serious offenses. You know, right now the car thieves, they can get house arrest under C-83, right? C-83, they go and they sit at home, they play Netflix or Grand Theft Auto. And then they just walk out the front door and steal another car. They take the car to the rail, to the railhead, gets on the railhead, or it gets on the back of a truck trailer, and it's off to the port of Montreal. And it's funny, I was meeting with some Brampton businessmen a few months back. The guy tells me he bought an air tag to put in his car because he lives in Brampton and he knew it was going to get stolen eventually. So one day he woke up in the morning and he said, oh, sure enough, my car's been stolen. Good thing I put a tag in it. So he opens up the app and he says, well, sure enough, it's on the track to go to Montreal. That's where the port is. So he gets in his car and starts driving to Montreal. He gets to Montreal and he's following the little dot on his app, and it's behind a fence on a rail track. He jumps over the fence, he runs over, and he says, yep, that would be the one right there. Finally, he sees CBSA running towards him. And he thought, oh, thank God, they're here. I can show them my app, they can open the bin, I can give them a description of my car, tell them my license number, they can confirm that it is my car, they'll have one of the big cranes come and get my car back, and all will have ended happily ever after. Instead, they said, no, we're giving you a fine. You're not supposed to be on this property. He said, okay, I'll pay the fine. I trespassed, but can I get my car back? They said, no, we don't have the resources. So they picked up the box, they put it on a ship, and it went down the St. Lawrence, through the Atlantic, and off to a faraway place where it was resold to terrorists and gangsters and criminals on the other side of the world. We could be using scanning technology that exist in the Cayman Islands, for example, that is scanner. It only costs a couple $1 million, which might sound like a lot. But if you stop, 20 or 30 cars with one of these scanners, it's almost paid for itself already. And yet we don't scan these, and they're fast. They just run them through the scanner, they get on the ship. You can look inside the scanner through this vision-piercing technology, and if it says on the manifest that you've got widgets in that box, but it looks like it's a Benz, well then you say, well, that doesn't look like widgets, that's a Benz. So let's take the container, put it aside, pull the Benz out, match the VIN to the owner, call the owner and say, were you really trying to send your Benz off to Beirut? Oh, no, you weren't. Okay. Well, that's good because we've got it here at the Port of Montreal, and that would very quickly dry up the demand for the stolen vehicles. We will also get rid of house arrest for career car thieves so that they will go to jail, and the foot soldiers of the theft will be behind bars. They will not be able to reoffend. We're also going to repeal the Bill C5. Sorry, C5 is the house arrest one, isn't it? C5, I said C5. I said C83. C83 is the Paul Bernardo comfort and happy living law. Here we have Frank Caputo. Frank actually went to the medium security penitentiary to pay Paul Bernardo a visit and saw the monster face to face. This guy's living in a place where he has access to a hockey rink, a tennis court, he's got free movement, he can cook himself some nice meals, and he has been allowed to leave a maximum security penitentiary because of the principles contained in the Prime Minister's penal law, which, what was the main principle in the law?
Least restrictive measures.
Least restrictive measures. So now it is the obligation of the board to move the offender to the least possibly restrictive measures. We're going to repeal that, and it will be an automatic fait accompli that multiple murderers will stay in maximum security, and by the way, they will have consecutive, not concurrent sentences. Multiple murderers will only ever come out of jail in a box. And all of my proposals are constitutional, and we will make them constitutional using whatever tools the Constitution allows me to use to make them constitutional. I think you know exactly what I mean. So they will happen and they will stay in place, and I will be the democratically elected Prime Minister, democratically accountable to the people, and they can then make the judgments themselves on whether they think my laws are constitutional, because they will be. And you know what I think is this talk about constitutional rights? I think it's a constitutional violation of someone's right to be smashed over the head with a baseball bat, or cut with glass, or even to have your car stolen. That is a violation of the right of a Canadian to feel secure in their own country. And those are the constitutional rights that we have to start to focus on in this country, the rights of the victims and the law-abiding people. And that's what we're going to do. Now, a lot of people will say these laws will mean mass incarcerations, and how will we ever accommodate all the criminals? Well, that is false. When we brought in similar legislative measures under the previous Harper government, not only did violent crime fall by 25%, incarcerations actually went down. Why? Because the offenders that we kept in jail would have gone back anyway. We have to save them a room at the Hotel California. They check out, but they never really leave, right? So if these reoffenders, the guys who had to be arrested 6,000 times, those 40 guys are going back anyway. It's just that we're punctuating their time with continual releases. By leaving them in jail, we don't actually increase the need for jail capacity. We just keep the bad guys behind bars so they can't do the harm, and we deter the softer criminals who are just starting to get into a life of crime. Yes, deterrence does work, and that's why when we instituted these policies, we not only cut crime, we reduced the number of people who were in prisons and the amount of money we had to spend running those prisons. And that is exactly what we will do again. In essence, what I'm talking about is common sense. You're among the only people for whom I want to reduce the business. I want you to have less business. I want the rest of our economy to have more business. I want you to have more money. I just want you to have less business. Because business is way up for you. That doesn't mean that your funding is way up, but in fact it's not way up. The irony is the same people whose policies are causing the crime are the ones who favor defunding the police and making it more difficult for you to do the policy work that you do. So we're going to back the police 100%. You will have an ally in the Prime Minister's office. And we will have an ally as working men and women. I know that you are in law enforcement, and that's why I focused my speech on that, but I want to reiterate everything else. You are homeowners or home buyers. You are parents of kids who need to be fed. You are workers whose paychecks are being chewed up by high taxes. Look, after 9 years of Trudeau, everything costs more. Work doesn't pay. You make it, he takes it. Housing costs have doubled. And you're paying the price for all of that as well. And that's why we have a common sense plan to allow you the freedom to earn a powerful paycheck that buys affordable food, gas, and homes in safe neighborhoods. We will axe the carbon tax to lower your cost of heat, gas, and groceries. Instead of taxing energy we still need, we're going to unleash the production of clean alternatives that will allow us to improve our environment at the same time. We will get rid of anti-development laws like C-69 so we can bring home production of oil and gas to our environmentally responsible economy rather than to the dirty dictators. We'll approve natural gas liquefaction facilities, nuclear and hydroelectric powers to provide clean, green, emissions-free energy onto the grid. We'll speed up the approval time for mines from 19 years to 19 months so that we can mine the minerals of electrification and national security here in Canada. In other words, bring home production to this country. We'll fix our budget. We're going to cap government spending and cut government waste to bring down inflation and interest rates. The doubling of our national debt has printed $600 billion of cash, which has bid up the cost of everything you buy, has been an outright assault on your tax, on your paycheck. You deal with the visible criminals. There's also the invisible thief of inflation that is quietly reaching into your bank account and into your wallet and taking the purchasing power that you have earned. And that is the result of money printing by a central government that can't control itself. By bringing in a dollar-for-dollar law, common sense Conservatives will require ministers find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending so that we can balance the budget and lower the inflation and the interest rates on our families. We're going to allow you to have a home. Right now we have the fewest homes of any country in the G7, even though we have the most land to build on. We spend the most share of our economy on home building. We have the most mortgage debt. So how is it with the most debt, the most residential construction spending, and the most land, we have the fewest homes? The answer is bureaucracy. We have the second slowest permits in the OECD, the slowest in the G7. That adds hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees, charges, delays, consultants, lawyers that go into every single newly built home. I'm going to require cities cut back this bureaucracy, lower the fees and charges, speed up the permits, and free up the land. They will have to permit 15% more housing completions per year as a condition of getting federal funding. We will sell off 6,000 federal buildings, thousands of acres of federal land to turn into housing. And it warms my heart to think of the beautiful family rolling up in their U-Haul to move into their beautiful new home in the former headquarters of the CBC. Yeah, we're going to be selling that one. Have you seen that palace? Tom, do you have a headquarters like that? No. Have you seen that place? It's like a 9-story palace. It must be worth $500 million, maybe $1 billion. That'll be our asking price. So that's a lot of homes we could fit in there. And we're also going to back the trades because we need more boots and not more suits. We're going to give tax write-offs for the cost of transportation, accommodation, and food of our tradespeople going from one job to another. We're going to get more Red Seal material into our high schools so kids, especially troubled kids, who are looking for an outlet and have been shut out of the normal programming within the schools that de-emphasize working with your hands. Give them something that they can do, that they are great at, that can earn them a great life, because frankly that kind of work is far more valuable than most of the work that those of us in suits do. So we need more of those people doing that work to build our homes. And we're going to, as I said, we're going to make those homes in safe neighborhoods with jail not bail, with treatment not drugs, with a stronger border, not by banning the lawful licensed firearms. We will repeal C-21 and allow lawful licensed, trained and tested hunters and sport shooters to responsibly own their firearms instead of deferring your resources to going after those good people. We're going to bring home our freedom in this country. We'll repeal C-11, the censorship law, C-63, the new online harms law, which can put you under house arrest for simply the suspicion that you might say something offensive online. That too will be repealed. We will ban the terrorist groups that have caused mayhem in our streets, including the IRGC. We will cut back on foreign aid to dictators, terrorists, and multinational bureaucracies and put that into rebuilding our military so that our troops can keep our country strong and free. We'll ban all my ministers from any involvement in the World Economic Forum so that our government always works for our people in this country. We will put you back in charge of your life. And make the Canadian people, make this government work for the people who do the work again. It will be based on the common sense of the common people, united for our common home. Your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home. Thank you very much. Great to be with you.